Hello everyone and welcome to another issue of Bronte Mania. In this video I'd like to take a look at two Gondal poems written by Emily and Anne, and I believe that both connect up to each other very well. Basically similar themes, and I could imagine them working on these poems side by side as they created the World of Gondal. So I'd like to delve into that, but before I get started, don't forget to click those shares and to give me a big thumbs up if you like my videos, and also if you could subscribe to my channel and click the bell so you can get all notifications. So the two poems I'd like to take a look at today, first, the Emily one is it's taken from the objective of a male prisoner, and the Anne one is taken from the objective of a female prisoner. The male prisoner is actually a leader of men. It states in the poem at one stage, it talks about his people, whereas the other one, the one by Anne, is a woman who is actually a family woman. She has a husband and a child. In both cases the prisoner has lost all hope of ever being released, and it looks very bleak for both of them. So I'd like to take a look first at Emily's poem. It's actually untitled. It's actually, I discovered it on the internet, and it was set down as an unpublished poem, and it seems to be in the character of a Harold, and this is how this poem goes. His land may burst the galling chain, his people may be free again. For them 1,000 hopes remain, but hope is dead for him. Soft falls the moonlight on the sea, whose wild waves play at liberty, and Gondal's wind sings solemnly its hollow midnight hymn. Around his prison walls it sings, his heart is stirred through all its strings, because that sound remembrance brings of scenes that once have been. His soul has felt the storm below, and walked a realm of sunless snow, to a region of most mighty woe, most voiceless by despair. And Harold's land may burst its chain, his subjects may be free again. For them 1,000 hopes remain, but hope is dead for him. Set is his sun of liberty, fixed is his earthly destiny. A few years of captivity, and then a captive's tomb. This is quite a startling poem, I feel, and I love the way Emily relates to the Gondal's wind in the poem, where she talks about it being a hollow midnight hymn, and it plays around the prison walls. She moves that in a really lovely direction, and goes through various phases as it goes through to talk about how we'll never find liberty again. And it's interesting, the final line, and then a captive's tomb, because in Anne's poem there's a reference to tomb as well, which I'd now like to delve into. So we now move from Emily to Anne, and Anne's poem is entitled A Voice from the Dungeon. It's actually a bit of a longer poem, this one, and it goes like this. I'm buried now, I've done with life, I've done with hate, revenge and strife, I've done with joy and hope and love, and all the bustling world above. Long have I dwelt forgotten here, in pining woe and full despair. This place of solitude and gloom must be my dungeon and my tomb. No hope, no pleasure can I find, I am grown weary of my mind. Often in balmy sleep I try to gain a rest from misery, and in 1 hour of calm repose to find a respite from my woes. But dreamless sleep is not for me, and I am still in misery. I dream of liberty, 'tis true, but then I dream of sorrow too, of blood and guilt and horrid woes, of tortured friends and happy foes. I dream about the world, but then I dream of fiends instead of men. Each smiling hope so quickly fades, and such a lurid gloom pervades. That that when I wake and see those dreary phantoms fade and flee, even in my dungeon I can smell and taste of joy a little while, and yet it is not always so. I dreamt a little while ago that all was as it used to be. A fresh free wind passed over me. It was a pleasant summer's day. The sun shone forth with cheering ray. Methought a little lovely child looked up into my face and smiled. My heart was full, I wept for joy. It was my own, my darling boy. I clasped him to my breast, and he kissed me and laughed in childish glee. Just then I heard in whisper sweet a well-known voice my name repeat. His father stood before my eyes. I gazed at him in mute surprise. I thought he smiled and spoke to me, but still in silent ecstasy. I gazed at him, I could not speak. I uttered one long piercing shriek. Alas, alas, that cursed scream aroused me from my heavenly dream. I looked around in wild despair. I called them, but they were not there. The father and child are gone, and I must live and die alone. And this is written in the character of Marina Sabia, one of Anne Bronte's Gondal characters. So that's the two poems. It's interesting that in the Emily one, it is narrator is telling the story, whereas in the Anne's one, it is Marina Sabia herself who is expressing all her thoughts in her desperate times in that dungeon. I think both poems are really wonderful, and they just tell a story of what a great storyline there must have been in these Gondal sagas. It's really one of the great sadnesses in literature, in my opinion, that it's been lost through time and we only have the poems left, and the narrative has all been lost. But I've actually been trying to piece together the Gondal theme through the poems. I've actually initially wanted to do Emily and Anne, but I found just concentrating on Anne, 5 of her main characters. I've actually written about 500 pages of this book. I've called it Gondal Regain, which is like regaining Gondal from the ashes, as it were. That's a work that I haven't done much on it recently, but I'm quite pleased with what I've done so far. It's basically just my interpretation of Gondal, because I think it's such an intriguing concept about this great world that Emily and Anne created when they were children, which went into their adult years. Although Emily wrote it a lot more longer than Anne, because Anne moved away from it to went into her adult phase of writing, as it were, with her 2 novels, Agnes Grey and The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. Thank you very much, Dan, for tuning into this video. I look forward to meeting up with you next time. Bye for now.